such a short notice.
Thank you for joining. And this is the one-day art exhibition that we are organizing. And this is a live painting session that we all are doing. So we have Vinita ma'am with us. Hi. We have Shantanu sir. He's busy painting. And we have Puneet. Hi. He's Vivek and I'm Neeti. So we basically are using different tools. So I have acrylic sheet with me. We have to paint in the reverse order while we are painting in an acrylic sheet. So generally the elements which are painted in the last, generally the background which is painted first. Using this acrylic sheet, we will be painting the background in the last. And Vivek is almost, I think, done with his painting. You can see. He is making some abstract forest. This is the one. So, and Puneet is also working on some floral stuff, I guess. And Shantanu sir, he is already great with Picasso sort of faces. And Vinita ma'am, please show what you have.
I've just started, there's nothing to show. It's blank.
Maybe during the next.
Sorry.
Maybe during the next few minutes you can go around quickly and show the paintings that I saw in the morning to
Sure.
Barry and Birjees, because those are really nice works of the same artist, right?
Yeah, sure. So this is one of them. And this is an abstract landscape by Vinita. This is watercolor on paper. This is done by one of the male artists from India. His name is Saurabh Raj. Isn't that beautiful? These are the watercolor stuff. So now let's move towards some abstract. It's acrylic, basically. These are the photographs. Candid. It's again the photograph.
Can you show them a little more close up? Yeah.
This is done by one of the specially able girl child. She's a cochlear implant child. And this is mixed media on canvas, wherein certain glitter and other stuff is used. This is watercolor, basically, watercolor landscape, scenic nature. And this is landscape made using knife. Abstract landscape, basically. Landscape is more about the nature, the natural scenery, the mountains and other stuff. This is abstract work. This is also the abstract piece of work. So most of the creations that are on display are abstract form of art form. It's again using palette knife. We have people live from Dubai. This is again. So she is the gallery owner. This is done by one of the self-taught artists from India. It's more of depicting folk art. That's again the abstract forms. using acrylic colors. This is a black and white series. Basically, it's a fusion work with using pen on paper. That's again an abstract piece of work. It's a telephone booth. It's a photograph, basically. You know, this kind of telephone booth is rare to find these days.
Even in England.
Yeah, you've generally seen in movies. So it was nice that he captured the moment and. So this is done by Vinita ma'am. Floral.
Nice
This is the horse that she made, painted. And this is again a textured landscape, abstract. This is painted using knife. That's again painted using knife. So the masters, they're painting here. So I'll also join them now. I'll see what I paint today. So Birjees, please, would love to share we would love to hear your views also, your journey as a watercolor artist, and any tips that you would like to share.
Well, you know, I don't know whether I can call myself an artist. I don't know how you define an artist, to be honest. I like to paint when I was working, I liked to paint in my spare time. And I used to paint in my spare time, and I started out in 1994, and I was inspired by I grew up in London. I worked in London, and on one of my office business trips, I was up in Edinburgh from London, and we were visiting the Scottish National Art Gallery on Princess Street. And while I was there, I saw this piece of artwork covering a wall, and I said to myself, I can do better than that. So yeah, that was I thought, God, because it was somebody had splashed paint onto a wall, and that was it, different paints, and they'd been splattered on the wall. And I thought, I can do better than that, to one of my colleagues. And when I came back to London, the first thing I did was I went into a stationery shop and picked up some art supplies, not knowing what I was supposed to buy, and not knowing that there was a difference between watercolor and oil. So I picked up things at random. I picked up some watercolor paints. They turned out to be watercolor paints, and a brush that wasn't a watercolor brush at all, because I didn't know what I was doing, and printer paper. And I proceeded to paint, and that didn't come out very well. And I thought, oh God, this is a disaster. And then one day there was a TV show on with a very famous British landscape painter called Alwyn Crawshaw. And he's very famous in the UK British landscape theme. And he's also, he used to be the president of the Society for Amateur Artists, which is now a big entity in the UK now. And he had a show on every Wednesday afternoon where he went around the country painting different landscapes. And I happened to be at home that day, because it was on during the day when I was at work. So I happened to be at home that day, and I got a call. My sister called me downstairs and saying, Burgess, there's a person painting. Come and have a look. And when I had a look, seeing that 5 minutes of him painting, just 5 minutes was enough to clear the air with what I did wrong with my painting. He was laying on a sky in watercolor. That in itself, that 2 to 5 minutes, made me realize what I did wrong. And that's when the whole thing changed. That's when the whole thing changed. And he actually inspires me to paint better. I met him a couple of times, a really nice guy. And he's the one who inspired me to paint. And now I get inspired by YouTube artists, people like Paul Clark and, Paul Clark and Michelle Weber and Karen Rice. Those are my sort of inspirations. And I follow their tutorials quite regularly. And they do inspire me to try and work. If I can get the chance to paint, I will. Most of the time I can't. So, but that's really what my journey is at the moment. Because I'm no longer working, I started doing painting regularly, as often as I can, given the circumstances. And about two years, I thought during the lockdown, after the lockdown, maybe I ought to start a YouTube channel. But I toyed with that idea for a very long time. It took me about 2 years to actually get the first video down. So that's my journey at the moment. I'm just, if I can, I do YouTube videos if I get the time. That's basically what I'm doing at the moment.
That's nice.
Well, I must jump in here and say that some of her work that I've seen on YouTube, when she's live doing the painting, she does it very fast, but some of them are amazing pieces of art. I would invite all the artists there to have a look at Birjees'
even I saw
channel.
that. It's lovely. And
you can
watercolor
share it
is
with
the
them.
most difficult medium to master. So it's really nice to see watercolor artists around the globe.
I mean, I paint, in watercolor. I paint in watercolor, but that being said, I do use acrylic, but I only use acrylic for one thing, and that's for one stroke. One stroke technique. That's the only time I use acrylic, and that's because I can keep the paper sort of A4 size maximum, and it dries quickly. So, but watercolor is my main medium, but I do use acrylic just for that, and the occasional charcoal and things like that too.
So Vivek has painted this. This.
Yeah.
Actually, it was in the reverse order. So this is the one that he painted. This is the first one. And Puneet has painted this beautiful, I would say, the leaves and some sea life, marine life he is depicting.
If you could bring it closer to the camera.